Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland, and here I am in front of the tomb of Karl Marx. So you can see some quotations from his most famous tract, the Communist Manifesto. You can see the original headstone. He was buried a few hundred meters away when he first expired, but it was moved some decades later, and as you can see, several relatives share his tomb. One of the fascinating things about this is not far from here, just over there are the graves of some notable Iraqi communists behind, because he had quite a following in Iraq after he died. These people often fled to the United Kingdom in the 1980s. Despite that, the Soviet Union was the biggest armourer of Saddam Hussein's Iraq. The Ba'athists under Saddam Hussein viciously persecuted the Iraqi Communist Party. You'd think that the Soviet Union therefore wouldn't sell weapons to Iraq, but they did. So business before anything, for everyone, that is. So here's Karl Marx. Well, what else can I say? He's born in 1818 in Trier, Germany. He was brought up as a Christian, though his parents had converted from Judaism in order to avoid the discriminatory laws. And Marx, he went to Berlin University and a couple of others. It was quite common in 19th century Germany to do 1 year at one university, 2 at another year at a third university, and so on. And eventually he had a PhD in philosophy. He mostly studied ancient Greek philosophy. He was a disciple of Georg Friedrich Hegel, who was a German philosopher who was en vogue at the time, and being a young Hegelian, well, that was what one did if one was a German intellectual in the 1830s, which is when he was growing up. So he was concerned about poor conditions and abysmal wages for farm labourers in the Rhineland. He also went to Paris and wrote for the Jahrbuche, as in the yearbook, and was involved in some of the first socialist societies. Returned to Germany in March 1848, the revolution. Of course, Germany wasn't a united country at the time. It was split into 36 independent states under various kings, grand dukes, archbishops. There were some free cities, as in ruled by elected councils, only wealthy merchants allowed to vote and so forth. But anyway, he fought in 2 battles, was wounded in the leg, and he fled to the United Kingdom, where he spent the rest of his life. And he learned passable English, studied in the British Library. So that was him. Didn't treat his family terribly well. His collaborator was Friedrich Engels, who mostly lived in Manchester. So Marx, he was lived in Soho for a while. There's a plaque outside his house. He wrote Das Kapital. Even in English, it's always known by its German name, which is a critique of capitalism, which shows how, bizarrely, when we produce too much, we actually become poorer because there's a glut on the market. So he thought that we were heading towards a socialist society and eventually communism. The state would wither away, in Engels' phrase, and we could do without money. We could just cooperate on a voluntary basis, and that communism was the state of nature. When we lived in small bands of hunter-gatherers, we simply cooperated without any currency and without a hierarchy. We should return to that. So it was 70 years after his book, Communist Manifesto, was published, that the first country was run on communist lines. Of course, in Marx's own lifetime, there was the Paris Commune, which lasted for only a few months in 1871, which was an attempt to put into practice his communist ideals. So that's Karl Marx, the world historical tipster, a figure of extraordinary significance. Not very well known now amongst the junior generation, because hardly even Cuba pays lip service to his ideals. I don't think the North Koreans talk about him very much either. That is Karl Marx.